Well, the time has come and the gang is all here. Hello everyone, this is Abominus here, and it is time to take the Terrorcons to the next level. We have everyone ready to go, so let us start combining to form Abominus. We're going to start appropriately enough with the leader. And Hunger, like any good Scramble City style combiner bot, is going to form the torso, because he is in charge. You're going to fold his arms up here. These are going to become basically his shoulders and then some shoulder pads. And then we're going to flip him around and straighten out these dragon heads so we can expose these little bars that will attach the legs later on. That's really it for now. We're going to set him off to the side and start working on our legs. We're going to bring out his head at the end, since the head reveal is always a cool final moment. Next, we are going to take Blot here and turn him into a leg. And to do that, we start off by folding away his head and opening up this cavity inside here to expose this little clip. This is what's going to clip onto Hunger's legs there. But before we attach, we're going to take this headpiece and fold it down. And if you see this bar here, it's very inconspicuous. In his beast mode, it actually just serves to sort of cover up a gap that's in there, make it look more like his head and neck area is just one solid piece. But what it will actually do is tab into these little holes on each of his legs, like so. And two. Okay. And there you can see this is now one solid piece, which will be used as a foot. Then what we're going to do is just clean up the sides here by folding these arms back. We'll get them more out of the way once this is closed up. So I'm going to take Hunger here, plug it into the cavity, and then clip his foot in place. It's a soft thing, you won't hear a click, but it takes quite a lot of shaking to actually pop him off of there. And the other good news is that we're going to get a final layer of attachment by taking this and closing it up to clamp it in there. And then you can see, you can shake him and he won't pop off. Then we can take these arms and fold them away. That's really what these hinges are for on the shoulders, to get this just out of the way and clean up the leg. Now I will admit, this isn't as clamped shut as it could be. If you leave his head flipped up, then this can close pretty much all the way around the dragon head, but then you have Blot's head staring out the back, and that just doesn't look any good. So, you can see this thing is already starting to look pretty abominable, and that means we can get started on the second leg, which is Ripper Snapper here. Now, much like his fellow foot Blot over there, there's not really much to this guy's transformation. You peg his feet together, like so. You fold these bits down back here to form more support. We can fold his head away, fold his arms back to clear up the front, and now we have a leg. And he's going to attach the same way. We open him up a little bit and take our torso here, clip in, and then we're going to peg this all back together, just like that. And again, very solid. So, we now have two legs for Abominus here, and we get to start working on the upper body. So let's do Sinner Twin next. Fold his head away, just like that. And what we're going to do is take his legs and use them as attachment points. So everything else here is really just going to serve as part of what will be the hand at the end of this arm. So let's just swing everything out of the way for now. Good. And we're going to focus on pegging these in. So if we come up to the top of Abominus's arms here, you will see that he has these two holes, and you will see that Sinner Twin has these two pegs. Okay, and to do that, all we're going to do is, this is very important, make sure that the part with his tail and his head's, he's facing this way. This part has to be on the outside of his body for this to work properly. So now we're going to come up here. I'm going to do my best job of getting this on camera. But we are going to take these two pegs back here and attach like so. Keep in mind that there's a lot of claws and feet and things that will get in the way. So we're going to take this, peg it in. Nice and solid on there. And then you can position these bits however you want. Leave them open as some big claw. That's just how I like to position them. If anything, you can actually fold this head and this foot up out of the way if you want to give him something more like, like that, or something like this if you just want an open claw hand with this being the thumb, whatever. And provided you can balance him out. There, we are, 4/5 of the way done. Just one more arm to go, and that will be Cutthroat. And Cutthroat is going to work pretty much the same way as his brother over there, Sinner Twin. We are going to start by folding away his robot mode head to reveal his beast head, because this is going to be the hand. Take the wings and just get them out of the way back here. These will be just there to position however we want later on. Then take these feet and fold them up so that, again, the same pegs will line up with the same holes on the shoulders. So we're going to do exactly what we did the first time and peg these together. Again, I'm going to try to get this in shot, and boom. If anything, I know I've harped on this guy a little bit for being skinny and scrawny, but he's a lot easier to attach because he doesn't have all this bulky stuff. Okay, and then we have our guy almost ready to go. Let's pan up here. And the last step is to just tidy everything up. Sometimes bits can come undone when you're attaching other arms and feet and things, so let's get him standing straight. Let's get his arms positioned kind of nicely here. And now it is time for the big head reveal. So what we're going to do is we're going to come around to the back. We're going to take this whole section that his legs are mounted on. We're going to sort of just pull it down on this double hinge bit. And then we're going to come around here to the head, or what was Hunger's head, flip it around, and boom, we have an Abominus head. Now what we can do with this is there's a tab, sorry, crotch shot here, but there's a tab on the underside of Hunger's tail that will tab into the new pelvis piece. And what that actually does is it swings the hips in such a way that this guy is not leaning as far forward as he was just a second ago, so that he can actually have something of a normal posture when he is standing up. And there we go. There is the moment of truth. I've been really excited to get here. I haven't said this earlier on, but in order to persuade myself to keep going with these videos, I have actually not combined these guys prior to shooting this video, so that I would have an incentive to combine them on camera. And everything from here, especially with this arm, is just about, what do you want? I like having the wings just sort of up and symmetrical on here, like actually like the shields that a lot of the G1 guys used to have. I know the original Hunger had that shield bit that became his the chest plate of Abominus when they were combined. And speaking of which, let's go see how this guy compares to his G1 counterpart. Okay, so now that we've compensated for space because I underestimated the size of this guy the first time, we can see that there is a big difference, pun intended, between old Abominus and new Abominus. I configured this guy the same way as this guy so we could compare bit by bit. So let's start with, obviously, colors. So this guy, the new Abominus, doesn't really have any new colors to him when he combines. You get a little bit of extra white on his face, which is the new detail. So let's get a look at that. It is nice. It's a nice head. He's got some white on his face and some yellow eyes. The thing I will admit is that this head just looks kind of grumpy. With how vicious all the Terracons are and how nice each of their heads is, it's surprising that his combined mode head looks the most normal / calm out of everyone. It's weird that way. If we look at original Abominus here, we can see that there's a lot more pink / dark purple in this combined mode. You've got, or I should say dark pink and light purple, whatever color it is. You have that color on the feet, on the hands, and on this huge chest plate. And we've also added some more white on his combiner helmet here. Let's take a look at that. You can see this is cast in white plastic with purple on the face and yellow eyes. So this guy is doing his best to copy those colors, just substituting red for the purple. And then I guess inverting the white and the red, so that his head is white with a purple face, his head is red with a white face. The next thing we can go into is posability. So if we look at this guy, jeez, you can see he's got shoulders that click up and down on both sides. He has hips that swing up and down, and knees. And because of all the articulation in Hunger's necks, he actually has quite a bit more than your average Scramble City combiner. But as a Scramble City combiner, he also carries with him all the combiner kibble. You've got the helmet, you've got this chest plate, which at least they tried to use it as a shield on Hunger. You have the hands and the feet, which just have to sit off to the side. The advantage of this guy is that there is no combiner kibble. The head is integrated. The arms and legs are each guy by themselves. You don't need to do anything with weapons or extra bits. You just plug them together and go from there. The other advantage to this guy is, I'm not sure if he has more points of articulation. I wouldn't say that. But what I would say is that he has a better range in all his limbs. So let's take a look at that now. So getting up close, we can start with the shoulders, which are ball jointed, thanks to Hunger's ball jointed shoulders. We also have this this turn here. It's a swivel. It's still a shoulder joint really, but he can rotate his arms forward. Then because of the articulation in Cutthroat's feet here, you can actually use this as an additional shoulder joint, although you only get that much out of it. Then you have an elbow here at his hips, so you can bend his arm like that. These things move. If you want to give him a shield, I guess I talked about that before, you can splay these out, or tuck them up to the body. So I guess that's an articulation thing. And then he also has his neck here, although you can't bring it that far forward because you start bringing out his robot mode head. But you do have this that can swing around, and you have a wrist here. So that's well done. Let's go to the other arm. Again, you have all the same stuff in the shoulders here. He has no ankle joints or anything. You can move the feet around a little bit, but that's not much. He does have the same elbow at his ball jointed hips. And then this hand is crazy articulated because you've got this hinge joint here that both the beast mode forelegs are attached to that can swivel up and down. You have ball joints on each one of these, and you have ball joints on each one of the necks with this additional hinge. Coming to the legs, we have ball jointed hips, and that's kind of it down here because everything plugs together solidly. You don't have much in the way of knees or anything, although if you do start untabbing things, I guess you could give him sort of an ankle although you risk him being unstable if you start pulling everything apart, or you risk everything looking a bit weird. So there might be something in there, although for the sake of keeping everything solid, I'm not going to try it. So this guy, he's definitely well articulated. The one thing that I wish he had that old Abominus has is a neck swivel. I wish all these guys had neck swivels on them. I think that would make for a really nice thing. But this guy can at least turn his head a little bit, which is nice. And besides just comparing physical things, I think the last thing we can talk about is sort of the nature of how these two combine. The original Abominus, as I've pointed out a few times, is a Scramble City combiner, meaning that any one of the 4 limb bots can become any one of the 4 limbs, meaning there are more possible combinations of him than there are of Prime Abominus, because the arm guys can only be an arm on either side, and the 2 leg guys can only be a leg on either side. So there's fewer configurations of him, but you can see he's I think he's a lot better connected and a lot more articulated with no combiner kibble and all that compared to this guy. So he does have his advantages, and another one of those would be weaponry. If you remember my review of G1 Bruticus / Robots in Disguise Ruination, something I really liked about that is that in the combined form, all of their weapons combined. So the combined form got 2 really big guns out of it. And for the original Abominus, there's really no big combined weapon for him. He can use this big rifle that came with Hunger, and it doesn't look bad, but there just seems to be something missing. If you look at these holes, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, which you'd think would correspond to the 4 weapons that the other limbots come with, but this is the only one that actually grips onto any of them. I don't know if that's a molding problem on either end or what. I don't know if they're meant to do that, but you can only really attach one to here, so I haven't even bothered with it. Whereas new Abominus comes with all of these Cyberverse weapons, meaning that what you can do with these, and we'll get up close here, is plug them together in a large variety of ways. You can see there's pegs and holes all over these weapons, meaning you can stick them together a bunch of different ways. 2 things I want to say before I get started with that would be, 1, the hammers let me down in a big way. Even though I like these weapons a lot, they let me down in the fact that there is a hole here. It's been molded that way. You'd think with all the other stuff on here that this hole would be molded so that a peg could go in there and they could combine. But on both of these, for any of the pegs I've tried from all of these weapons, there's absolutely no grip. It's just too big. And the thing is that these all fit snugly, all the pegs fit snugly in all the other holes, meaning there's no reason to thicken these up to fit in here, because then they wouldn't fit in the other holes. They'd be too big. So that's a big disappointment. The other thing, which isn't a disappointment, is just something to be aware of. I'm assuming, again, since this hole was molded in the barrel, I'm assuming that that means you can stick pegs in there, which you can. The only thing to be mindful of is that, I really don't know if you can see it, but on mine there's a crack running down the top, which has happened just because I've stuck things too far in there. I don't fear for it breaking. I think I just need to be careful with it and just know that's something to be aware of. So let's get this guy in here. Let's get him standing up nice and straight and tall and proud, and let's combine the weapons in a few ways. I'm not going to sit here for 5 minutes and plug them together on camera in all the different configurations. I just want to show you 2 of them, my 2 favorite ones that I've come up with, and then I'll just pull them off camera, do those, cut back, and stick them back on for the sake of time. So if we start with this one as the core of our combined weapon, what we're going to do is take the 2 crossbow axes and peg one into each side, like this. Then you're going to take each of the hammers and plug them into the barrels of the crossbows, and you get a double hammer for him. Now I'm going to plug everything into the right hand here because Cutthroat's mouth makes for a much better hand than the mouths on Sinner Twin. Although you can put this in either hand. And now he has a very big double-headed hammer, and I think this is awesome. I'm really a fan of how the hammers look when they're wielded correctly by the individual Terrorcons, so I really like that Abominus here can get his own big hammer out of it with spikes all over it and a saw blade running down the handle. And you can see if he's posed correctly, it doesn't actually unbalance him. Oh, excuse me. Okay, and we are back. Sorry about that, had to take a call. But if we move on to the next weapon, we're going to show off my next melee weapon build. I really do like melee weapons for these guys. Not that guns aren't cool, but I always come down on the swords and things are better than guns debate, just because they're more interesting, I think, than guns are. So again, we're going to start with Hunger's weapon as the core, but this time we're not going to make it as symmetrical. We're going to take one of the hammers and plug it in here, and this is how I got the crack. I think you can see it a little bit there. You're then going to take the other hammer and you're actually going to peg it this way, take the main handle and stick it into the side of the hammer head, so you can see we're building something longer. And the nice thing is you can sort of just do intermediate things, like this is just a longer hammer for him to hold. If you want a single-headed hammer, you don't have to use all of these. And you know, I don't know, I'm just ad-libbing right now, but you know, you could do something like give him a double axe weapon in one hand and this in another. So there's a lot of different combinations. That's why I'm not showing them all off. But then what you can do is you come up here to the head of the hammer like this. And we're going to plug the two crossbows in to be axe heads, and now he has a large double-bladed axe weapon, which, thanks to the extension of the handle by the hammer, actually makes this quite a long thing. It's not showing up on camera. There we go. And just like other melee weapons, this looks really, really good with all his other spiky bits and things. Okay, so we're going to do some cutting around now. I'm just going to show off some of my favorite weapon configurations for this guy. So I'm going to take this, pull it back here. You are just going to stay put. And let's see what other things we can make. Okay, and for starters here, we've pegged everything together symmetrically to make a, you can think of it as like a double-barreled shotgun, or there's another barrel here, so maybe a triple-barreled gun. Truth be told, these don't peg in exactly the same way or with the same tightness, I guess. This one really likes to fall off, but nonetheless, here's a weapon mode. Let's see the next one. And here is something which really makes me wish that the hammer hole right there actually worked. Because although this isn't really anything, the idea of something being able to peg lengthwise in here to do something just doesn't work. As you can see though, there are a lot of different combinations you can make with these things. And ultimately, it just comes down to how much time you want to put into experimenting with them and deciding what you want to make out of them. So if you came to this video just to see a review and discussion of Abominus here, then this is where I can tell you thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. I liked actually being able to combine this guy for the first time since I got him here. He's just been waiting over on the desk, just waiting to come to life, so that's been fun. This video will have a second part that I'm going to cut to in a second, which will go back to discussing these guys as a team and how they interact with each other when they're not combined. But this is Hypoman here with Abominus, Transformers Prime Abominus fully combined. Thank you for watching, and on to part 2. Okay, people, and we are back here for part 2. I'm just cutting back to a shot of Abominus here because there are a few things I wanted to bring up with him before we actually get into discussing these guys as a group rather than as a combiner. So since last time, I've come up with a new weapon build, and this is sort of a giant rifle. I tried to put him in that, like holding it in this hand and like balancing it with this hand as best I could. I know I said last time that cutthroat makes a better hand, and basically what I meant by that is it's a lot easier to get weapons in and out of his mouth, but the extra joint on Cinder Twin's neck here means he can actually hold guns and the melee weapons in such a way that he isn't just dragging them along the ground or holding them with his arms straight out. He can actually bend this up like an elbow or a wrist and hold the hammers and axes a little bit more naturally. So that's cool. Something else that I wanted to bring up with this guy is the nature of combining him. So last time I mentioned that things are designed simply, which means that, there's no combiner kibble. The combiner ports on him are actually masked really well. The pegs and holes that attach the arms are incredibly inconspicuous, and the clips on the insides of the two legs are barely noticeable, as well as the bars they clip onto. So everything is hidden really well, which I think helps make up for their lack of Scramble City combining. I think if they had been designed that way, there would have had to have been something in the design of each one of them that would have had to been sacrificed for some kind of universal combining port. So that's cool that they were able to make these guys better standalone toys, even at the sacrifice of, he can only be an arm, he can only be a leg, that kind of thing. The other thing I wanted to bring up was the combined mode head. I mentioned it was weird that it looked the least monstrous out of all of them. It looked the most like a normal guy, a normal robot who just looked kind of grumpy. I did say last time I think it's a really good head, so I wasn't knocking its quality, but something I've noticed since then is that it really helps tie the whole body together as being one gestalt robot. I think if his head had been too wild and crazy, it wouldn't have made it look as solid as this guy's head makes the center of his body look, which really helps the arms and legs look more integrated, even though the colors are obviously very different. So that's just a few things on this guy combined. I'm going to take him apart now, and we're going to cut back to the team. Okay, just a quick thing about this weapon build so you can see it up close. There's nothing I did here to make the hammers pegged together. As I complained before, the hammers don't work. It's actually the axes holding them together, which is why, as you just saw, it's pretty easy for this to fall apart. But, I'm still learning new weapons to make with this. I would love it if people posted in the comments different kinds of weapons they could come up with. I'm sure if you had multiple sets of these, you could just build, fantastically huge things with all of them. So that's pretty neat. I'm gonna get these guys in here for a group shot. Let me lower us down a bit so we can get a better view of them. We're gonna do a robot mode group shot this time, since we've had them in beast mode for the other group shots. And I'll just sort of do my closing thoughts again on their team dynamic and just talk about, I guess, a recap on how I've reviewed them so far. Something I really want to stress is that there really aren't things that I outright dislike about any of these guys. Anything I've said that has sounded, of disappointment or massive criticism has been me trying to be discerning. I'm just trying to find as many differences to talk about as I can. I'm trying to make comparisons, and if that comes off as me trashing one of these guys more than the others, then it is just an unfortunate product of me attempting to be discriminating. Okay, so here we have them all lined up in just some order. And I do want to stress again that these guys do look really good all together. It's great to have all 5. Okay, sorry about that cut there. We're back. Like I was saying, these guys do look really good together. everything that these guys do, combining, and their updated aesthetic, their the way they interact with each other, which we'll get to in a second. That's the big thing I want to touch on in this part of the video. All of that really outshines any little problems that I can find with them. I guess the things that I would mention that stick out for me, that sort of stop these guys from blending together 100%, would be the fact that these three, Blot, Rippersnapper, and Cutthroat, do feel a lot smaller than the other two. And to a certain extent, that's a good thing. Hunger feels bigger, which is a good thing. He manages to feel bigger than the others, even though they're all the same size class, supposedly. It's Sinner Twin that's sort of he's still kind of the loser out of this bunch, and it's only because, one, he feels bigger than the others, which is not a bad thing, but he doesn't entirely, fit in. He's the same height, but just looking at him in any which way, he just looks a lot bigger. And again, I'm going to harp on his very straight and static arms. His limbs are very straight. He looks too normal, I guess. Everybody else has got, bent elbows, bent legs, things like that help them stick out a little bit more. So just something to add a little bit of variety. By the way, that back there, although it may look like a wine bottle, is actually just a Dirt Devil vacuum. I noticed that right after I cut that kind of looked weird. But I swear, it's a vacuum. Okay, so now what we're going to do is talk about my favorite feature of these guys as individual team members, I guess. This is not an official thing at all. It's, I guess, akin to fan moding. It's something I discovered, and I absolutely love it. It's the thing that I teased back in the Blot video that makes him my favorite, but it's something that all these guys can engage in. And just like the weapon builds, there's different variations on this, so I'm just going to cut around and show you what ones are my favorite. But the first one's going to involve these two, so we're going to leave Blot here and take care of Ripper. No. Wow, that's the first time I've gotten their names wrong. Leave Blot here and take Sinner Twin out of the picture. We're going to transform him back to beast mode, and then we're going to cut back. By the way, if you notice, I have a few scrapes here. Took a spill while riding my bike, but I'm doing just fine. So if you see any scabs or blood, know that nothing went wrong recently. It was like last week. Okay, cut. Sorry about that. Totally forgot I also needed Blot in his beast mode for this. But we are going to show you my favorite configuration of what I like to call the Beast Rider feature. So for this, we're going to give these guys their two weapons. I'm going to give Blot his hammer in his mouth, like that. I'm going to give Sinner Twin his hammer in his mouth. And then we are going to sit him on his back to engage in the weirdest game of Polo Cybertron has ever seen. I picked these guys for this one because you can use Blot's heels to actually lock him in here, make him a little bit more secure, and also because he has the hammer, he definitely looks the best doing this. So come on, work with me here, guys. Work with me. There we go. I think this looks fantastic. I love the idea of this guy sitting atop Sinner Twin here, riding him into battle. Both of them brandishing hammers, just smacking guys out of the way, leading the charge. And this is actually one of the reasons I'm okay with Sinner Twin being bigger than the others, because this kind of looks in scale. And this is also another reason that I give Blot a lot more unintentional personality than he might originally have, with his smile here in beast mode, and the fact that he can do this. It matches up for what I think about his personality. He might be ugly and smelly and kind of dumb, but he would also be the most brutish out of these guys, I think, because of that. So he would be the one that would totally do this, just grab a teammate, ride on his back, anything to get into the fight and to, beat some people up and have a good time with it. And this is something which all the team members can engage in. This is just the best one that I like to leave up on my shelf. So this is the one I am showing to you. So this is what really sort of puts this team over the top for me. The fact that they have such a nice potential for interacting with each other. It's not just toys that exist on their own and then can combine when you want extra functionality out of them. But it's something that to me makes them feel more like they are a team. And that's ultimately the thing I think that works the best about these guys being upgraded Terracons for Prime. You're doing more than just taking the toys and making them look different and making them more posable and making the combination happen without kibble. You're doing something that gives them more personality. And again, I haven't finished watching Prime. I don't know what happens in Beast Hunters, so I really hope these guys show up. Although I have a feeling if they do, given that it's probably, only like 10 episodes, they might not get that much character if they do show up. I do hear that Ripclaw shows up, and I love her toy, so probably gonna have to go back and watch it for her, if anything else. But yeah, that pretty much does it for these guys. That's everything pretty much that I can think of to say. I'll reiterate it again. These guys are fantastically fun to play with. Although there are some, like Blot and Ripper Snapper, that I pick up more than the others to goof around with. All of them are tons of fun. All of them make really great desk toys. That's not a term I usually use, but I always keep these guys on my desk, so it's appropriate. And again, any flaws that I pointed out as things that were negatives compared to the others were things that I just tried to use for the sake of comparison. So I have to get that. So if you will excuse me, this has been Abominus here, doing an extended look at the Transformers Prime Predacon Terracons. We'll get one more group shot of them. So thank you very much for watching. I am signing off.